It's time for Recipe of the Day. I am very often cooking for a small household. It'll just be me and Marty, or it'll just be me, or it'll be me and my kids. And so over the years, I've become an expert at scaling recipes down in a way that makes them still easy, but also reduces the amount of waste and also reduces like having to use half amounts of things. Like I hate when I have that like sad can of beans in the fridge with plastic wrap over it. I know you're going to tell me you're supposed to transfer it to a container, but that means I'm adding a whole extra step on top of things, you know? Anyhow, when I am trying to scale recipes down, when I don't want to have leftovers, I also don't want little bits left in the fridge. And so this pasta e fagioli soup, the classic Italian, has been scaled down in that kind of way. It makes the right amount for 2 hearty portions and no little leftover scraps in the fridge. And, you know, it's delicious too. So I'm going to tell you the recipe, but I'm going to also tell you the little tricks that I use to make this just perfect for small household cooking. Okay, we are starting with a large saucepan over medium heat, and to that you're adding 2 strips of bacon that you've chopped up already. Now, if you want to skip the bacon, you can, in which case you're just going to warm up 2 teaspoons of olive oil, and then we're going to saute our vegetables in that. Or you could do any kind of like ham or cooked sausage or any kind of leftover cooked meat is going to work in here as well. If it doesn't need to be browned or cooked, if it's already cooked, you'll add it in later though. So assuming you're starting with the bacon, you've got 2 strips of bacon in the pan. And I'll tell you, I often buy the bacon and chop it up while it's raw and freeze it chopped. And then I can just go in and crumble off the amount that I need when I'm doing a recipe like this. So that is really handy. You're not opening a whole pack of bacon just to take out those 2 strips, you know? You already did the prep work. So you have that handy little bacon. If you're doing like a Caesar salad and you want some crispy bacon on top, any of that kind of thing, it's ready to go for you. Okay, now you're going to cook up that chopped bacon until it's crispy, and then you're going to remove all but 2 teaspoons of the bacon fat from the pot. You can discard that or save it for another use. And then to the bacon with a little bit of fat in the pan, you're adding half of a small onion that you've chopped up and a half cup of finely chopped carrots. Now I have tips for this. So many tips for this. First of all, you can actually buy frozen chopped onions, which is just a miracle. You can have those in your freezer all the time and you can add them frozen right to this. You're going to need between 1/4 and 1/2 cup of the chopped onions, just frozen right into there. The other thing that I tend to do is I have a plastic tub in my fridge. I call it my go-to tub. It's like one of those containers that spinach or spring mix comes in at the grocery store. And what I do is I put my little half bits and pieces of veggies in there, like if I'm making salad or something. So I would use the half onion here for this recipe and then put the other half, maybe wrapped in some plastic wrap, into that bin. And like I end up with like half bell peppers and like a cucumber, some green onion, all that goes into that bin. And then whenever I'm making dinner, I just pull that bin out and I start with those things. They're already ready for me right there and I know to use them up. I guess on that note, the other thing that I often do in recipes is I use red onion instead of regular onion when it calls for a small amount. I usually have one of those big red onions that I buy to slice and put in salads. So I slice a little bit off, put it in a salad, the rest goes into this bin, and then I just chop off the amount that I need for these kinds of recipes. So that's another thing to do. A kind of onion that you can cook with, or you can put raw into things, and then it's more versatile and you go through it more quickly, you know? Okay, so then for the carrot, a half cup of finely chopped carrot. You can buy the already in matchsticks carrots. They're sometimes called shredded carrots, and then you just put those directly in there. Maybe give them a rough chop so they're not so long. That's great. Also, baby carrots can work here. You're just running a knife through. So you just get the amount that you need from those already peeled and prepped carrots. Or if you are buying a bag of carrots that needs to be peeled, you can peel a couple of carrots, use the amount that you need here, and any that you've already peeled can go into that go-to tub. Okay, so you have heated up that bacon fat or oil. Maybe you have bacon in that pot too, and you've added the onion and the carrot, and you're going to cook and stir that occasionally until they're soft, 3 to 4 minutes. Then you add a clove of minced garlic, a half teaspoon of Italian seasoning, optionally a pinch of crushed red pepper flakes. If you want it a little bit spicy, those go in there too. Give that a stir, and then you're adding 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Now, that means that you have to open one of those little cans and you're going to have some left in the fridge. If you don't want that, my advice is to buy the tube of tomato paste. Mine comes in a yellow box and the tube is inside the box and it's sold on the top shelf near where the cans of tomato paste are. It stays in the fridge and you just squeeze out the amount that you need. But you also also can use salsa in place of the tomato paste. Just a little bit more, like 3 tablespoons, because it's not quite as intensely tomatoey. Now, it is going to give your soup the tiniest bit of like a Mexican-y kind of flavor, but only if you know the salsa's in there. If you didn't know, you wouldn't notice it. But that's just a great substitute because you have it in your fridge, in a jar for snacking on tortilla chips. You scoop some out and you put it back in the fridge. So salsa is a great substitute for tomato paste. Oh, and I'll say here that a lot of people will use ketchup. I find that I can still taste it, but I think it could kind of be like this salsa thing where it's because I know it's there. Up to you, give it a try or not. Okay, so you added the garlic, the seasonings, and the tomato paste in there. Cook and stir for 30 seconds. Then add 2.5 cups of low sodium chicken stock into there, along with a cup of frozen beans, such as lima beans or soybeans, also called edamame. You want them shelled, not in the shell. Now, here's what I'm going to say. A lot of recipes for soups that call for beans call for canned beans, and you're often opening a can, draining it, putting the amount that you need into the soup, and then the rest goes in a can in the fridge with plastic wrap over it, or you're better than me and you've put it into a little container. You have these beans to use up. It's annoying. If you're great at using these things up, then use them up. If that is you, go for it. But if you're constantly like, oh, these cans, and you're annoyed by it, or the other thing that I sometimes do is put the whole can in the soup because I don't want to just have that can in the fridge. Well, now I've made even more soup than I need. Now there's a container of leftover soup in the fridge that may or may not get eaten. So any of those problems can be combated by using the frozen lima or edamame beans. You have the bag in your freezer. You take out the amount that you need, 1 cup here, and the rest go back in the bag in the freezer. I have a preference for the soybeans, those edamame, over the lima beans, and it's just because I really like how they taste. I will snack on them, like I'll put them in a bowl in the microwave and just like put a little salt and snack on them like that, or I'll put them on salads. So if I have those in the freezer, I can throw them into things like this soup, but I will also use them in other things. So that's my preference. Okay, so you're adding that cup of frozen beans. They can still be frozen. They're going into there with that stock, 2.5 cups and a half teaspoon of salt. Increase the heat to high, bring it up to a boil, and then you're going to stir in 1/3 of a cup of dry orzo or another small pasta shape, and you're going to keep cooking that while stirring until it comes up to a boil, then drop the heat down to a simmer and cook, stirring occasionally until the pasta is tender, 7 to 9 minutes, depending on what your pasta package says. Taste the broth at that point, add a little more salt if you'd like, and it is ready to go. Just the right amount for your small household and for mine. And if you like this kind of recipe for two, keep coming back to this podcast, Recipe of the Day. Keep visiting thecookful.com. I am doing a whole series on recipes for two. And if you are a regular listener of the show, you know that I have big plans in place for something related to cooking for two. It is coming very soon, and I can't wait to tell you. But yeah, so if you like these kinds of recipes, keep coming back. It is the recipes and the tips to make you better at cooking for a small household without extra leftovers that you don't want or extra waste or extra things to use up. We are doing our best to make life easier for you and for me. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.